Last week, leaders of 3 Latino nonprofit organizations met with Phoenix Police Chief Jack Harris to declare their opposition to a proposed change in policy that they claim would lead to racial profiling. But profiling is not an inherently bad thing. It's a valid and useful tool in law enforcement. The police can't help it if the majority of people who come here illegally are of a particular ethnicity, and it certainly shouldn't be used as an excuse for them to not enforce the law. But the 3 amigos didn't limit their race-pandering demands to the police. They are also calling for the media to refrain from reporting a person's illegal status unless it's absolutely relevant. What we'd like to know is, when isn't it relevant? Phoenix Mayor Phil Gordon has been so embarrassed by the criminals pouring over our impenetrable border that he recently insisted that Phoenix isn't a sanctuary city. That, of course, was after he went on record several times to proudly take credit for his city's sanctuary policies. The same sanctuary policies that got Officer Nick Erfel killed and Officer Brett Glidewell shot by illegal aliens, not to mention the overwhelming violence associated with the human and drug smuggling that runs rampant across the entire state of Arizona. In fact, these problems have reached such epidemic proportions that one Phoenix cop said, "We're basically policing Mexico." Yet pro-amnesty, open borders organizations like these are demanding that we willingly descend into a state of lawlessness, and they'll use thinly veiled threats to get their way. Luz Sarmina of Valle del Sol. Latinos are over 40% here in this valley. To be hateful towards 40% plus of the population is only going to lead to trouble. Trouble? Trouble like cop shootings, cop killings, the endless violence associated with human and drug smuggling? And since when is enforcing the law hateful? We're with our good friend Digger at Digger's Realm, who wonders where the funding for these organizations comes from. We don't know about you, but we're not interested in helping to fund their work as described by Digger. They are support groups for criminals in this country, trying to hide the truth of the criminals' impact on society. Or for that matter, their stated goals of building the next generation of Latino leaders and improving the future of the Latino community. We're more interested in building the future of Americans, all Americans. We're also interested in the truth, and the truth is on our side. The victim, Ariana Rodriguez Romero, a 4-month-old Florida girl. The accused, her father, Marcos Gomez Romero, 28, an illegal alien. The charges, first-degree murder and aggravated child abuse. The story. In the eyes of her father, little Ariana had committed an unforgivable crime. She was born a girl. Those of us who are sane, and human, of course, know that killing your 4-month-old daughter because she wasn't a boy is the unforgivable crime. And this scumbag didn't just kill her outright. He tortured her. Gomez Romero, who was arrested for child abuse a year ago and released, admits to brutally abusing the baby for the entirety of her short life. Just seeing her enraged him to the point that he made a habit of slapping the girl's ribs while she was sleeping. The medical examiner found that Ariana had 5 new rib fractures and more than a dozen old ones. Her left eye had hemorrhaged, her spleen was cut, and her spleen, liver, and jaws were bruised. The girl's mother told police that Gomez Romero would grab his daughter by the hands and carry her that way into the bedroom. He'd close the door, and shortly thereafter, Ariana would begin crying. In the last piece, we reported on Latino organizations demanding that the media lie by omission with regards to people being here illegally. We Googled this story, and not one article mentioned Gomez Romero's legal status. Fortunately, we undocumented journalists are here to do the job the mainstream media doesn't want to do. We dug up his inmate report and discovered that he has an ICE hold. Of course, if our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, this jerk wouldn't have been here to abuse his own 4-month-old daughter to death on American soil, making this crime 100% preventable. The victim, a New Jersey bartender. The accused, Manuel Mariche, 24, an illegal alien. The charges, aggravated sexual assault, first-degree robbery, criminal restraint, and aggravated assault. The story. At 7:15 a.m. on October 10th, the female bartender was exiting a bathroom when Marish attacked her, punching her in the face several times, forced her back into the bathroom, and sexually assaulted her. He then fled, stopping to steal money from the register on his way out the door. Marish was arrested on October 28th for an unrelated crime and gave police, shocker, a fake name. DNA tests not only revealed his true identity, but also linked him to the sexual assault. And think about it. The DNA test identified him as a person already known to the police. That means he has even more criminal history in this country. Now for the crazy. We have an admitted illegal alien charged with committing multiple violent felonies, and his bail was set for $250,000. Is the goal to encourage him to commit more crimes here? Because we didn't get the memo. Remember, folks, that illegal aliens, by definition, do not enjoy civil rights in this country. Civil rights are for citizens, not low-life illegal aliens who view this country as a criminal theme park where they are entitled to unlimited admission. Civil rights are for citizens, and they are cheapened and devalued when our so-called justice system hands them out like candy to people with so little respect for our nation and us. Of course, if our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, this dirtbag wouldn't have been here to be treated like a citizen, not to mention steal, assault, and rape on American soil, making this crime 100% preventable. In the last story, we mentioned the fact that illegal aliens, by definition, do not have civil rights in this country. Are we crazy? Well, yes, we are, but not when it comes to this. Civil rights are for citizens, and citizens only. Let's see how the American Heritage Dictionary defines civil rights. The rights belonging to an individual by virtue of citizenship, especially the fundamental freedoms and privileges guaranteed by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution and by subsequent acts of Congress, including civil liberties, due process, equal protection of the laws, and freedom from discrimination. Rights belong to an individual by virtue of citizenship. That means that if you're a citizen of Poland, that's where you need to go to find your civil rights. If you're a citizen of Australia, you need to go down under to find yours. And if you're a citizen of Mexico, you guessed it, you need to head south of the border down Mexico Way for yours. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines civil rights as the non-political rights of a citizen, and human rights as rights regarded as belonging fundamentally to all persons. This is a crucial distinction to make, because observation tells us there are people working very hard to erase that distinction. To what end, you may wonder? Consider this. Replacing actual civil rights with lowest common denominator human rights is a good first step toward devaluing and eventually doing away with the very entity that bestows civil rights, the sovereign nation. It's an open borders ploy used by open borders advocates. Do you recall Dirty Harry Reid during last year's desperate elite scramble for comprehensive immigration reform, referring to illegal aliens as undocumented Americans? Just last week, Virginia Governor Tim Kaine described those who support state laws to curb illegal immigration as being hostile to new Americans. It's a ploy used by the same people who somehow think it's noble to greet a pregnant illegal alien with open arms and confer immediate citizenship on her child because mom managed to waddle across the border in contravention of our laws. It's insulting to us as citizens, and we can only imagine how insulting it is to those citizens who have historically had to fight for their civil rights in this country. The civil rights movement has been hijacked by our invaders as they march in our streets to demand the rights of citizens, even as they spit on our country, our laws, and us with the law-breaking nature of their very presence here. When Elvira Arellano took a year of sanctuary in a church here in Chicago, she was likened to Rosa Parks. How ridiculous to compare a citizen who fought for civil rights she was denied to a two-time illegal entrant felon who hid in a church for a year to flaunt our laws yet again. The fact is, American citizenship and the civil rights that accompany it are valuable, and Americans will not stand by while our greatest national treasure, citizenship, is devalued by those who come to steal the American dream, or by those who would give it away. Know your civil rights. Fight to keep them. And by all means use them in the country where you are entitled to them, the country where you are a citizen. Thanks for clicking in to this week's episode of the Blogs4Borders video blog burst. And remember, be strong, be vocal, be vigilant. We've got a country to keep here.